This episode is brought to you by Studio. Use the discount offer Large Marge to get 50% off your purchase today.
Be sure and tell them Large Marge sent ya.
In the 90s, we were just teeny tykes. We went to movies and our bikes. We wanted to be DJs, but we were just teeny gals. So we went off to college and we remained best pals. 20 years later, we're still watching flicks and we're bringing you the favorite bit by bit. Sweety and Sweety are here to say it's the Large Marge Santa's podcast.
What do you really want to know? Am I sorry for what I did?
Well, I am.
There's not a day goes by I don't feel regret. Not because I'm in here, because you think I should. I look back on the way I was then. A young, stupid kid who committed that terrible crime. I want to talk to him. I want to try to talk some sense to him. Tell him the way things are. But I can't. That kid's long gone, and this old man is all that's left. I gotta live with that. Rehabilitated. It's just a bullshit word. So you go on and stamp your form, Sonny, and stop wasting my time. Because to tell you the truth, I don't give a shit.
Hey guys, welcome to the Large Marge Santa's podcast, your favorite podcast where two Sweety sisters talk about their favorite flicks from childhood. I'm Sweety.
And I'm Sweety.
And tonight, in celebration of the Oscars, which are on Sunday, we decided to pick a movie that was nominated in the 80s and 90s that we loved, maybe, or watched a lot as kids. And so there's a long list of possibilities. Yeah, we teased it.
Well, yeah. So, sorry, I'm just going to interject.
It's fine.
So we had to pick we had to open it up to nominees because, like, the Oscar winners, while great, weren't ones we necessarily watch as children. So we went through the nominee list. I did 80s and 90s, shot Sweety some options. And she came back with one right away, which is really one of her favorite movies. And I think it's actually, when I told people we were doing this movie, people were freaking out. They're like, "Oh my God, I love that movie."
So, who did you tell? I thought it was a secret.
No, I told people who aren't real podcast listeners.
Oh.
They're my friends, but they don't listen on a regular basis.
All right. You told Gary. Does Gary know?
No, I didn't tell Gary, my boss.
All right.
Hey, Gary.
Hey, Gary.
Do you still listen? I don't know. But yeah, so this was interesting to do because, not a lot of jokes in this one. A little bit of a downer.
Or will there be?
There's actually a lot of hope to this movie.
Oh.
Think about it in another way.
Well, that's the main message.
Yeah.
So we did the
Shawshank
Redemption song. Brum, 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 brum.
You trying to sing the Bob Marley?
Yeah.
All I ever had,
Redemption song. And he crawls through the pipe. Redemption song.
Feel a lot of money.
Redemption song.
Becomes best friends with Morgan Freeman.
Redemption song. Good song.
Yeah.
Wow.
What is your history with this film, Sweety Sweeterson?
Well, so this movie was on TV all the fucking time, you guys. All the time. I can't remember a moment when I was little and I'd turn the TV on or flip through the channels before you had the guide on the, in the olden days, we just flipped through the channels. Maybe had a TV guide, I don't know. Looked in the newspaper. I think you did that. We did that too a couple times.
Yeah.
And this would always be on.
Always.
And it was on TV, so it's not like it was inappropriate for me to be watching it. And I don't remember how old I was exactly. Probably somewhere between elementary school and middle school, just to guess. And it's
94. Did you say it was 94?
right.
So
Oh no, we didn't.
yeah.
But
So
it would have been.
You're tiny.
But it was playing on TV. Like it's not like it played on TV immediately after it came out.
True.
So
that
it was,
does
like,
happen.
on for a couple years after.
Yeah.
But
late 90s, late 90s probably.
and it's one of those movies that's just like really good, and I knew it was good when I was little, but there was a lot that I didn't understand, and I think it was one of those things that Dad would always be like, would like explain.
Yeah.
One of those movies where I was like, but I don't get it, or maybe you would explain because you were like my older sister and you were like super smarty pants and loved Sweety splaining to me.
I don't think I Sweety explained this movie. I really haven't seen it that much. Honestly, like the TV airing of this movie like really put me at a disadvantage because I feel like I only ever saw it from like maybe like the last third or like even the last half of it. So we were watching, this is the first time I think I've seen it like the actual real version, like from start to finish. And the beginning, I was like, I was asking you so many questions. I was like, wait, what's happening here? Wait, why are they making
like,
bets?
hello?
Wait. Like, she's like, have you seen this before?
I've ever seen the Shawshank Redemption.
I've seen the end like 100 times, but like, yeah, that beginning, I was like, what is going on?
Yeah, so I think that because I watched it a lot when I was little and I didn't understand everything, it piqued my interest. And this is the same way I feel kind of about horror movies too, is that I would catch a glimpse at a movie and then really be intrigued by it and then seek it out later in life to really understand it. So I watched this a lot in my elder years. Fester Adams, the elder brother. And I really loved this movie, and I would like quote it all the time. And I did a thing where I did like a mashup on when I first got my first like MacBook, and on Rock Band I made a mashup of all my favorite movie quotes, and this was one of the end with Red on the Bus was one of them. Because it's just my favorite part, and I love it so much.
Was it your AOL, your AIM quote in your like signature?
Probably at one point. It was my yearbook quote. I mean, I'll talk about it, but it's just I just loved it so much, and I love Morgan Freeman so much. And I mean, I think I've talked about this before, but I just like can't handle. I mean, I don't know. No, I'm not gonna say it. Forget it. I don't want to be accused of being racist again.
What? Why?
No, I just accuse myself of being racist, but I don't know what to call this. It's just like, I love strong black men.
I think you can say that.
I just really love him, and I just love everything he does. Yeah. I've never been like, ugh, I don't like Morgan Freeman in this movie.
Well, I was going to say that any movie that Morgan Freeman, basically any movie that Morgan Freeman does a voiceover for, that's a good movie. I mean, that's a good film.
Yeah.
That's a solid film. And this is actually the first one where he ever did any voiceover work, which is like
so that
kind of crazy.
Really started it all, started the trend.
Yeah.
He's just amazing. I
He's
fucking
fantastic
love him.
at this. And if anything, so like we said, this was nominated for the Oscars so it would have been the 1995 Oscar. Beaten out by Forrest Gump. You know, solid movie. Hasn't really aged that well, but definitely solid movie.
Oscar bait.
But still, this movie won no Oscars, which just goes to show you, despite the Oscars being on Sunday and us celebrating it with this podcast, the Oscars are shit.
Total shit.
You're telling me this movie didn't win not one Oscar? I mean, it is a fabulous film and has aged tremendously well. So I guess it didn't do that well in theaters, but the movie rental, it was the highest movie rental from 1995. It was like flying off the Blockbuster shelves. People were like, where's Shawshank Redemption? I need to see that Shawshank Redemption. And then increased, and then like basically Ted Turner bought the rights for TNT, so that's why it was shown on TNT all the time, and obviously like that's where we saw it.
Yeah, and
it is now I think in the 70s on the AFI top 100 of the 20th century movies.
That's it.
So made that list at least. It's a phenomenal film. The story, and we'll go into this a little bit more detail because what I'm bringing into this podcast is my love of Stephen King, and this is actually a Stephen King novella. Called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. And so not only is the story based on like what is a pretty great novella, and the guy who wrote the screenplay also directed it. His name is
Frank Darabont.
Yep. And that was like a great pairing there, him directing his own screenplay. Obviously the actors, phenomenal. And there's just such subtlety and like power to this movie. It is a very dark subject matter that I feel like is just dealt with so beautifully.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Mm-hmm. Exactly. There's just moments when the camera pulls away, like just the right time, and it's not It's funny because Frank Darabont did The Walking Dead, and like obviously that's a very
He did Green Mile too.
oh, okay. That's a very gory. The Walking Dead's very gory and whatnot, but this like pulls back so much.
Really?
There's so much restraint in this. I'll give examples later, but I think it's just a masterpiece, and it's so engrossing. It's pretty long, I think. I didn't look at the actual running time, but it never feels long for me. Like I'm never like I'm bored. I'm always just like sitting. I never like feel a need to look at my phone. Like I'm always just so engrossed in the movie. And it's just again one of those movies that whenever it's on TV, you watch it. Like Silence of the Lambs. You're just like, oh, I'm gonna watch this. I love this movie. So well done movie. So yeah. So I mean, obviously we'll talk about some good stuff after the synopsis, but for now, let's do the synopsis.
All right, it's time for the Sweety synopsis. Yeah,
Sweeties,
get busy living or get busy dying.
that's goddamn right. Andy Dufresne is a banker who was sent to Shawshank prison for the alleged murder of his wife and lover. We don't know. I mean, okay, I'm just gonna say this, but he didn't do it. He didn't do it, guys. He did not do this murder.
What? Huge shocker reveal.
No, I mean, no, it's not because it's.
I honestly watch it. If I obviously knew that he didn't do it, but in the beginning they don't make it that convincing that he didn't do it. Mm-hmm. Don't you think that?
Yeah, I agree with that.
I mean, the trial, he's like a little bit of an oddball, Andy. You know, he's very quiet. He doesn't like reveal a lot. He doesn't have like a ton of emotion.
He's just so like amazed that a coincidence like this happened. So what happens is that his wife has been having an affair with this pro golfer. So he follows her one night and has a gun, and he thinks about going in there and shooting him, but he changes his mind because he's a human being with morals. So he doesn't do that, and he turns away and throws the gun in the river and drives off. As luck would fucking have it, those two bitches get shot anyways, and the cops think Andy did it. They find his footprints outside because he was there and he saw. They knew that he had a gun, so it's just really, really bad luck, but all kind of circumstantial. Like if this was today, I don't think he would have been charged because there's just not enough evidence. Like hard evidence,
right.
DNA, etc. So,
but it is those like kind of weird coincidence ones that are when people tend to get really screwed.
That's true. Yeah. So he gets sent to prison, and we go to Shawshank, and we meet Ellis Redding.
Reddington?
Reddington sounds like a department store. But we call him Red. That's Morgan Freeman, and he's the narrator of the film. And he's the guy that knows how to get things. So he's kind of like the person that we are seeing Shawshank through. So Andy arrives with all the new inmates, and Red kind of spots him right away, thinks he's pretty quiet, thinks he's going to crack real soon. But he doesn't. He just is very stoic, and Red's kind of intrigued by him. Eventually, they meet when Andy asks Red to get him a rock hammer, which is a very tiny hammer used to carve rocks, I guess.
Yeah, because he likes to make. I don't know if there's like a term for this, but a rock carver. He makes little
rock spider,
little sculptures, and he makes chess pieces and just little like knickknacks, almost if you were like a whittler. So you can like do that with wood. He does it with rocks, which is pretty cool talent.
Whoa,
I mean, he's a jack of all trades. That guy has a lot of talent.
I know.
He's very,
he really
very
does.
Smart.
He's good at a lot of stuff. So soon before long, Red and Andy become buds, and Andy kind of joins Red's like little gang of guys in there. Unfortunately, Andy gets kind of picked on by the sisters, who, I mean, offensive name first of all. I regret. I mean, that's rude. And it's like they're lit like they're girls because they're gay and they're like.
Well, it was also 1949.
I know.
This
was
just
like,
not
what's wrong with sisters, huh?
Yeah.
So they beat up Andy and have sex with him in the bum, and it's awful. And he goes through a couple years of that, I think. And then one day he gets beat up real bad by the main guy. and he has to spend a month in the hospital, and then they like beat up the guy who beat him up real bad, and that guy gets paralyzed. So no more butt fucking. He's clear. He's in the clear.
So my theory is either like it was Andy's plan to like really make that guy beat him up so bad that he would be like almost beaten within an inch of his life, and like that's what it would take for like the warden and the other guys to get involved, because they beat up that head of the sisters who's like in charge of all the butt raping. But or is it because the warden was then hatching his plan to like use Andy as like the smarts for his like money laundering
He didn't
scheme?
do that until like later.
But they were getting wind at that point though, weren't they, of him being really smart because he helps out that one cop with like the tax stuff. So I don't know if it's like that or what. Like why would they just decide to weigh in on this and get that guy out of there when he was clearly like messing with people for years?
Well, my theory is that they never could like catch him. They could never like catch those. Like they knew probably something like that was going on, but they didn't have a way to like verify it, because this put Andy like in the like, because usually he just gets beaten up and he just comes back to normal, and he's just like, okay, I have a black guy.
But I feel like
and they don't care.
That guy never got solitary either from all the times.
Right. But this time they knew that he did it
because
and
Andy was in such bad shape.
And the warden,
right?
yes, and the warden is highly religious and does not tolerate homosexuality,
okay,
or sodomism as he refers to it. And I think that's what he was like. He told Dickface, whatever guard his name is, to go to beat him up. So I think that's what happened. But anyway, so now Andy's kind of free, and he embarks on a new chapter of his prison life as sort of a executive assistant to the warden, balancing his books. He also helps the other prison guards with their taxes and all this little stuff. And then we're kind of just following Andy and Red through the years, right? So it starts in 1947 and ends in 1966-ish. So that's a long time. So a lot changes. So I don't want to go into all the little teeny details, but a lot happens. He builds a cool library.
Yeah, there's like a couple like hot points, right? So like he befriends a little old librarian guy whose name is Brooks, who's been there since 1905.
Why is that a thing? Why is aught?
Aught is like a word for zero.
It's dumb. Yeah. It's a dumb name.
So he's this little old guy, and he has this library. So Andy, being pretty much like the most intelligent white collar person that they have in what is primarily a, let's say, blue collar prison, where you have, and this is also the 40s, so your education levels were pretty slim. So they have this library, and it's like pretty ramshackled shape, and this Brooks guy runs it, and Andy gets involved, and he starts writing letters to the governor to give them more funding for books. He writes a letter every day, and then finally they do end up sending him money and books, so he starts to like rebuild that library and basically like get education for the prison, which is like what these guys really need, and that includes, you know, getting basically GEDs. You know, they call it something else then, high school equivalency. But for all these poor prison inmates, who some of them, you know, have just had a life of crime and like, you know, never obviously dropped out of school, and that's why they're into crime.
Right, it's just an endless cycle. So,
but and everyone loves Andy because he's like involved like that. He also, so then because he's so smart, as Sweety was saying, kind of gets involved in a money laundering scheme for the warden. So he, like, you know, he's a banker. He's a former accountant. He's very good with money. So the warden tasked him, you know, and the warden's thing is that he has basically free labor in this prison, and he rolls it out like it's this program that these guys are being rehabilitated and they're doing odd jobs, and like that's how they'll learn to like be better citizens. But what he's really using them for is like a free labor pool. So what happens is everyone else in the state who are regular non-convicts, you know, builders and masons and stuff, all their contracts are being taken away because you can get the prison people to do it for free. So basically, people start paying off the warden, so he'll say no thank you to using the prison workers, and then they'll still get their job contracts, which is like a similar thing that the mob does, I'm pretty sure. I was just reading this book recently where like that was a thing. So it's a very common thing in these kind of like work environments. So anyway, the warden has a lot of fucking money, and he has got to figure out a way to dirty money that he's got to clean it up. So Andy like basically makes this money laundering scheme,
Yeah.
which, will come into play later.
Right. So he's doing that. And
the Tommy part is pretty
right.
important.
So, Brooks, the nice old librarian, gets let out of prison. But he just can't make it on the outside. He's been in there most of his life, and it's like more of a prison on the outside than it is on the inside. He's institutionalized, can't handle it, and he kills himself. It's really sad. But it really makes like all his buddies in the prison sad, and kind of gives them something just to, I don't know. Is that when Red gets really like angry about Andy about hope? He's like, hope is a dangerous thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just, I don't know. I think it really shakes Red up because he realizes that like he's going to be the same if he ever gets out. That's a scary thing, and like it's actually not a good thing to get paroled. And they show throughout the movie, every time Red comes up for parole, he goes into the little office, and they ask him like if he thinks he's been redeemed. What is the word they kept saying?
Have you been not resuscitated? Shoot, what's the word?
Revived, resurrected. Ooh, I forget. Well, it was in the quote.
Rehabilitated?
Yes, rehabilitated. And he's always like, yes, I definitely have. And he goes through that like twice, gets denied. This last time he goes, I'm jumping ahead. Sorry. I drink 2 ciders, so I'm like a little buzzy, and 2 teas today, so I'm like a little off the wall. But anyways,
living off the wall.
Brooks dies, and then Tommy, this younger guy, comes, and he's sweet, but he's just like been in and out of prison like his whole life.
Lost
obviously, hard knocks, doesn't know how to read, that kind of thing. So Andy really kind of takes him under his wing and really helps him out. And then one day, Red tells Tommy what Andy actually did to get in Shawshank, and he says that he murdered his wife, who was shacking up with some pro golfer. And Tommy's face just kind of is like, what? And you're like, why is he looking like that? What's happening? And we've come to find out that because he's been in and out of prison, Tommy actually was cellmates with a guy that was blabbering off about some story he told him about how he killed this pro golfer in bed with his woman, and that he got away with it because they pinned it on the wife's husband. And so they make the connection that was Andy's wife, and there is their proof that Andy actually is innocent. So it's a groundbreaking revelation. It's very exciting. So Andy goes to the warden, he tells him this, and the warden's like, I'm sorry you believe that story. It's just silly. It's not real. It didn't happen. And so then he puts Andy in the shoe, right?
Yeah, because Andy like freaks out at him,
and like
he's
yells
like,
at him.
I love that part because he's
How
like,
can
why
you
are
be
you being
so
obtuse? And he like says it's so funny. And I'm always like, wait, what does obtuse mean again? Like, don't you like think that? You're
I
like,
just
wait.
immediately imagine the triangle.
Yes.
And I'm like, it's the big triangle.
And then like the warden, that is like the ultimate thing you can't say to the warden. What did you say to me? Obtuse. So yeah, so Andy freaks out, and they're like, you're going into the hole, what they call solitary confinement. So he's in there
for a month.
Meanwhile, you learn that sweet little Tommy, even though despite like he didn't think he did well on his little entrance, high school equivalency exam, he passed with a C+. So that's like great news. But bad news, the warden takes him outside and was like, hey, so heard what you said. It's really giving me heartburn, keeping me up all night. Like, we got to do something about this. Like, do you swear to God you'll like stand up in court and say what you said is the truth and nothing but the truth, blah, blah. And Tommy's like, yeah, dude, of course. Like, of course. Like, I heard that. I want Andy out of here, blah, blah, blah. And the warden's like, good. And then it's like, poof, 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 and that fucking jerk face, what is it? Head of what are those guys called? Assholes.
Correctional officers?
Yeah, correctional officers. Like the one who basically like beats people to death. I mean, he's like fucking sketch. And he kind of looks like Biff.
Yeah, the one we thought was Biff / the guy in The Americans. It is neither.
Yeah, he's not. It's neither of them. It's another guy who looks like that and is a horrible character human being. Coincidence? I think not. Anyway, so he shoots it with a shotgun 3 times, and they make up this story that poor sweet little Tommy, despite that he was in there for like B&E and he was only in there for 2 years, was like breaking out of prison, and that's why they shot him.
Duh.
No way. So that sucks, and it just obviously reinforces the fact how much they want the warden wants to keep Andy right where he is, and he's not going anywhere.
And is that because he thinks that Andy knows too much about the money? Okay. I wasn't sure about that. I was like,
For sure.
yeah.
Like 100%, but also like there's such an interesting, I mean, this is obviously like the most obvious trope in prison movies, but that power play between basically these men who run the prison and the guys who are in there, right?
Yep.
But the difference with Andy is that basically that whole prison is just like, career criminals, guys who didn't get an education, just got into trouble most of their life, like weren't going to amount to anything anyway. Andy is different. Andy is really smart. And I think that like really is something the warden loves to do, is like to be not only like empowered and like above these kind of like dumb dudes, but like that Andy is someone who is like smart and well in society, and the warden can still be like, I'm ahead of you now, like look at like basically your life is in my hands. And it, like, because the warden is obsessed with like the Bible and God, and he kind of uses that as like a facade for people to think he's like some like great do-gooder.
Yeah.
But really I think he has like a God complex.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, totally. So that sucks. And
so then
Andy's kind of like, that's it.
this.
Fucking out of this shithole fucking
20
place.
years too long.
And we don't know if he means like he's gonna kill himself or like what, but like Red knows he's acting funny because he tells him like, Red, like if you ever get out of here, like there's this one rock under this one tree in this place with hay bales, and if find it and there's something there for you. And he's like, what are you talking about? And then Andy goes away, and then at breakfast or whatever, Red's like talking to his buddies, and he's like, I'm worried about Andy. I think he's going to do something bad. And then that one guy's like, oh shit, like he asked me for some rope, and I gave it to him. And they're all like, fuck. So they're all like really scared that Andy's going to kill himself. And they do roll the next day, and Andy doesn't come out of his cell, and Red's like, oh my God. Like the look on his face is so amazing. It's just like held back because he doesn't want to like let it be too obvious that he knows something is wrong. But just watch that scene again. It's amazing. But anyways, the guard goes in there and he goes, what does he say again? He's like, oh no. Or like, and they sound the alarms, and it turns out Andy escaped. And we don't know how. We're like, what?
How'd he do it?
How'd he fucking do it? I'll tell you how he fucking did it. So he asked Red for that rock hammer back in 1947, right? So, 1949, he asked for the hammer. So we thought he was just making rocks. We thought he was just making his little chess pieces, getting like his shit done, doing his thing. Nope. He was busy hammering through the wall, making a hole, making a tunnel so he could fucking escape. And that's why he asked Red to get him a poster of Rita Hayworth, which I didn't mention, but now I did. So that was to cover up the hole. It's genius. And there's just all these things. And if you've seen the movie, which I obviously hope you have, or why would you be listening to this? But it's just so brilliant, that scene where they put everything together and show you like what happened like twice. Like they show it, we watch it for real like the first time, and then they go back and kind of play it again, but with like from Andy's point of view, like what actually happened. And it's just so great. I love it so much. So he escapes and he crawls through 5 football fields of shit in the sewer, and it comes out the other side and rips his clothes off, and he's free at last. And he goes to the bank and like withdraws all the warden's money that he put in this fake account. And then he mails evidence of the prison and the warden's wrong, evil doings and corruption to the newspaper. And he's like, my job is done. Go to Mexico. Later, bitches. So then the cops come to arrest the warden, and the dick-faced correctional officer guy, the warden shoots himself in the face because he's like, I can't handle prison because I'm an idiot. Yeah, and that's great. It's
Can't do the time, don't do the crime.
So now eventually Red goes for his third parole hearing that we've seen, and this time he shakes it up a little bit.
Yeah,
he says something different. He's like, I don't care if you think I've been rehabilitated, blah blah blah. It's a bullshit word. This is all bullshit. What does it matter? You're just gonna leave me here until I'm like old with a beard.
You bullshit. Yeah.
I'm out. And the guys are like, approved.
That's all he needed to do is be like a total dick.
So he gets out, And he kind of goes through the same exact walk that Brooks does, like same exact apartment, job. It's scary. You're
It's
like,
scary.
are you going to kill yourself, Red? Please don't. You're the best. I'll cry.
The
So,
music is too happy.
but he doesn't, because he made a promise to Andy that he was going to go to that one weird tree in Buxton and find this little box in a wall or whatever. I mean, it sounded pretty vague. The instructions seemed vague to me, and I'm shocked. I'm shocked that he found it. There were a lot of rocks in that wall.
That could have taken forever.
I know. It's like, I mean, he's used to waiting, so I don't know. He probably was there all day. But so Red gets on a bus, gets in the back of someone's truck and goes to Buxton and finds the box. And there's a note from Andy along with all this money. Actually, I don't know how much money it is. It looked like a couple 50s. Maybe it's just enough for like a bus ticket.
Well, this is the 60s, so that's a lot of money.
Oh, yeah. It's probably like $500 or something.
Probably I think it's over $1,000.
The stack didn't look that thick.
No.
But I don't know. So
That's a lot of money. That's like a couple thousand. That's
Right.
like 10,000 in the 60s.
Right. So Andy's like, do you remember the place of the town in Mexico like I told you I was going to go to? And of course Red does. It's called... No, I thought you knew it because you kept saying it.
I love saying it because they're like so like wistful and like romantic about it. They're like, it's not this, but they're like Ponce de Leon. But it's not that.
Wow.
It's not that.
Wow. Okay. So
La Costa Mesa. No, it's like something like that.
it's getting worse.
You are.
These all just sound like terrible
La
resorts.
Isla Bonita.
Isla Bonita. Is that the Madonna song? Oh my god. You nut. Okay, so he goes and Red gets a bus ticket to Texas, crosses the border, and he reunites with Andy. It's a silent reunion. It's great. It's classic. I love that last scene so much. It's beautiful. I cry usually. I mean, like, I didn't cry physical tears this time, but I always get like choked up in my face. Like I feel it in my face. Like, this is great. I'm happy. Feeling a lot of emotions. And that's it. And it's long and so much happens, but it's so wonderful and I love it.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Yeah. It's a great movie. And like Sweety says, they just do such a clever thing with it about how because there's parts of it, I guess, that like once you find out he's escaped, because you don't see him do it. Basically, you like see him in the present time of the movie, just like sitting there in the bed. Like you saw him do the switcheroo with like the books that the warden had and stuff. So you know like something's going down with that, but you don't know, right? No,
you don't see the switcheroo with the books.
Oh, okay.
That's the second time.
Oh, okay, yeah. So you don't really like see anything, and then they go back and they explain it to you. But like, basically, Andy had been planning this since like week, I don't know, really early in, a couple years in. When did he get that hammer?
1949.
So his first year.
2 years. No,
Oh,
got
it's
there
2
in
years
47.
in. Okay.
So.
So 2 years in. So basically had planning it since then. And obviously that makes sense because how long does it take to fucking, carve a wall, a hole in a wall big enough to crawl through with this tiny little hammer?
Less than 20 years, apparently.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy. That
But
hurts my head.
And that's like kind of like the ultimate, jailbreaks are like such a trope. And, I hate saying, I'm going to use that word 1,000 times, trope. But that is obviously when you're talking about jailbreaks, like how to break out, what's this like clever scheme. And his is really just like awesomely done, but also does take like, it took a lot of waiting. It took a lot of time. It wasn't like, okay, we're going to hatch this plan and like, we're all going to do it. No, it's something, and Red says this good thing that like you need something in prison to take your mind off something. So people do develop these sort of like hobbies, let's say. So like the front for Andy was the whittling of the stone, whatever that is, stone little sculpture making. But really, he was whittling the fuck out of that wall. And like he was up every night, he would whittle that wall. And there's this great shot of him where he's just like under the poster and just kind of like pick with this like tiny little hammer. And like all I could think was like, holy shit, like the determination of someone who wants to get out and wants freedom so badly that they will pick and pick and pick for every day for 20 years.
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of insane.
It's insane. Gosh, it's good. All right. Whew, I'm tired. Let's take a quick break and then we'll come back with some really insightful commentary on this film. Really smart, you guys. Really smart. Be right back. Don't go anywhere.
Bye for now.
Sweetie, I want to talk about headphones.
Lay it on me.
I did not know about wireless headphones. I mean, I knew about them, but I wasn't like, I need a pair. And now, Studio Sweden sent me a pair of wireless headphones, and it has changed my life.
Isn't it life-changing? I mean,
my God.
What are your favorite things about using wireless headphones?
Okay. My favorite thing is that my headphones don't get stuck on my coat and fall out of my ears. I just like freeballing, like just got them in the ears. Second thing, I don't need to hold my phone on summer days. In the winter, it's okay because you can just stick your phone in your pocket. Yeah. But with this, I can just put the phone anywhere I want and the wireless headphones on. Second thing, vacuuming, I can't listen to podcasts because the vacuum's too loud. Now I just put in my wireless headphones, leave my phone over there. Bam! I got the music and the podcast in my ear. It's amazing.
It's the greatest thing. I've had a couple different pairs of wireless headphones, but I haven't for a while. I got a new iPhone. I got like the fucking lame like iPhone earbuds. Annoying as hell. Got my new studios. Whoa.
They're great.
Obsessed. I got this really awesome pink pair. I got the sporty ones that like fit in your ear. They fit amazing, and they're amazing quality. I've got to say, like, I've gotten some ones from like TJ Maxx. I've gotten the Beats ones, really expensive Beats ones that fell apart. These are great.
These are
quality.
holding up.
I love how they fit right in your ear. They do not fall out. I worked out in mine. Like, do not fall out at all. Fit right in. A lot of times, sometimes I've had problems where like you'll get sweaty and they'll fall out. These do not fall out. Yeah. I have been recommending these to people like right and left. And you lucky listeners, recommending them to you, and you can use our code to get 15%
off. Yes. Go to Studio, buy your headphones, and then put in the discount code Large Marge. That's going to give you 15% off your purchase.
Yeah.
Do it. You won't regret it.
And they have lots of different styles.
Several different styles.
They have sporty styles. They have more casual ones. They have, those ones that go over the ear. So kind of pick your poison, if you will. You will not be disappointed.
You will not.
So thank you, Studio.
Yes. Thanks, Studio. And buy your headphones today. Bye. And we're back. Okay, Shawshank. Shawshank. So
Shawshank Redemption. Oh my God, that Ace Ventura, When Nature Calls. That's the best.
I know. It's good. Shish kebab. Chicago. Oh no. Shawshank Redemption. Chicago. You're out of here.
Shish kebab. Shawshank Redemption. Chicago, you're out of here. Go on.
If you've seen Ace Ventura 2, you know what we're talking about. If not, look it up, bitches. Chicago. Okay, so number one takeaway lesson from Shawshank Redemption. Prison is no joke, you guys. Except, could still be kind of fun if Morgan Freeman is your friend and if you have a prison library. I'm just saying.
Yeah. I feel like in this movie, the first 2 years are absolute hell. That is totally cannot be argued. But then it really evens out. And then you're like, man, that's not so bad.
Then he's just hanging out with his friends.
Yeah.
And it's like, Orange is the New Black. And you're like, is this so bad? I don't know.
You have a group of friends. They have a giant yard to play. I mean, there is like some manual labor involved that does not look very pleasant.
They're not playing. There's not like, I guess
they were tossing
a ball back and forth. But I was imagining like kids at recess, like, yay!
Oh, yeah. Well, they're not like jungle gyms or anything. But like for me, as a very avid reader, like I feel like prison. Okay, obviously anything like being raped and anything like that, not cool.
Yeah.
But the fact that I would get to read all day, is that prison? Because that sounds like awesome. Mm-hmm. So I would be really into that. I'd get so many books read. And that's another reason why the library was a good idea. Because, I mean, I don't know if the selections were very good prior to when, like, Andy got all those books.
It didn't seem like it. He just had, like, stacks of National Geographics, which I'm like, kind of interesting. Remember, we had a bunch of those, too?
Yeah.
And I'd find, like, the scary ones and be like, ew, surgery.
Oh, yeah. I mean, obviously there is like the threat of violence, so that stinks. And that whole situation, no good. The hole.
Oh, I was like, the tunnel?
No,
or I was like, WHOLE. I was like, what about the library? No, yeah. And it's weird. I mean, obviously, this is like a prison. It's not like Orange is the New Black, which is like basically a summer camp with orange jumpsuits. But I mean, they have barred cells. It does look pretty dire in there, but they make their cells their home. It's basically a studio apartment without a bathroom.
Yeah.
So
I think just it ends up being such a routine. It seems like prison, which I always said made it like so easy for Andy to kind of like to pull off this scheme, because a lot of the stuff that he uses is based on like, because his life was so routine and stuff happened kind of the same all the time. So he could like just knew what was coming and then plan around that, let's say, like use that knowledge of like routines to get what he needed. But then I wonder if like the routine makes it seem like, you know, less painful, or is it worse if you're just in a routine like that?
no,
You're just like, kind of just like
think it's
going
less
along.
painful.
And like, I feel like that would make maybe like the years go by slightly faster or something. If you're like,
maybe,
you know,
maybe.
like, you know, when you have a week and you basically just like, you get up, you go to work, you come home, you get up, you go to work, and it feels like you're like, whoa, that week like flew by.
right? Yeah.
I wonder if it's like that.
It must be.
Yeah.
Not that I would know, but it seems like it based on all the movies I've seen and TV shows.
I am not saying at all by any means that I would want to be in prison, that I think it would be easy. Like, I do not want that at all. But if I did, I would not want to work in the fucking laundry, okay? I can't even do my laundry now. I buy new pairs of underwear because I can't stand it. There's no way I would work in that sweaty, hot-ass laundry room. That would not be my prison job I would choose. Sweetie, what
Yeah.
would yours be?
Well, you didn't choose one. You
I'm not
choose
doing-
one you wouldn't do.
Yeah. Okay, obviously I work in the library. Duh. Next.
All right. Well, I wouldn't do any hard labor, and it's difficult because
Well, what if that's not an option?
I know you don't really get a choice oftentimes, and I'm assuming because of my luck, I'd be stuck with like toilet duty, which
Is that a job?
Which like whatever. But I
Like
kind of like
janitorial?
cleaning. But I don't want to clean a prison, which is disgusting. I will only clean
What did you feel like the jobs were there? So obviously laundry.
I didn't see many.
Laundry. There was that guy who worked in the infirmary.
Oh yeah, he had like a doctor's coat on. I was like, "Are you a doctor?"
Wait a minute.
And he was black, so I was like, "How did this happen?"
There was like a wood
'Cause
shop.
that was the
room.
40s.
There's a wood
that was
shop
later,
room.
so maybe that was part of the money. Maybe that the government got them.
There was all that outdoor work with like in the fields. There's that kind of stuff.
There was that
like chain gang almost, but they weren't chained together.
Yeah, the loudmouth guy works on the what's that called? The like not the docks, but like
That's what he called it.
Oh, that is what he called it?
Well, they're not docks, but it's like where shit comes into the prison and
like
they
the
unload
receiving
it. Yeah.
stuff. He worked there. I'm sure someone must work in the kitchen.
True.
I don't know.
That'd be pretty fun. I do the kitchen.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, janitorial would be like kind of hell on earth.
Yeah. No tank.
And yeah, I mean all the outdoor, but the thing is with the manual labor ones, you're outside though, so that's like kind of nice.
Yeah, in the hot sun, dying.
I don't think I could be.
skin
That's
cancer.
the thing about prison that I think would really rub me is that the limited amount of time outside. I would just really. I think that would cut my lifespan
Like you said,
down.
they get to play in that giant yard.
Yeah, but it's like when you're a kid and you only have recess. So it's like you're there for a certain amount of time. It's not like, oh, you can just like stroll out there whenever you want.
Yeah.
So
I think,
stinks.
well, honestly, I would find like my own like niche job like Andy did and be like, oh, I'll do taxes and like make up my own role.
What? You don't have those skills.
I could
You're
think-
horrible
I
at
could think
math.
of something. I could think of something else. It'd be like, do you want me to write your kids' term paper? Like, I'll do that. I don't know. I'm just like trying to use my skills. Okay. You want a podcast? I'll help you.
Oh.
But I mean, we're not going to go to prison. I mean, knock on wood. Hopefully Stop and Shop didn't listen to the episode where we admitted that we stole avocados.
All I can say is that you'd never know because like this wrong place, wrong time shit is not a joke. That happens to people all the time. It's kind of terrifying. And like you said, like obviously way more often way back when, because now we have DNA and like a little bit more like CSI kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But then they were basically like, oh, okay, you're her husband and she was going to leave you and you bought a gun. Okay, you did it. Like, I mean, it was like a lot of coincidences with that one. I think more than most cases, but still, like, I feel like this is another story or a movie or something where it's just like
The Fugitive?
I've never seen that.
Neither.
I may know the plot, but anyway, it could happen to you. I'm just saying. So,
Also a movie.
Yeah.
About the lottery.
Yeah.
Positive, though. Yeah. True.
You know the parole hearing thing reminded me of? And I don't know if anyone else remembers this, but Charles Manson died recently, but he was in prison for like a long,
He
long time.
died?
Yeah.
I remember that.
And I remember they would play his parole hearings on TV, and you could watch them. I don't know where they aired them.
I didn't know that.
Oh my God,
I never watched them, but I knew that it was like some class I took or something that was like he's up for parole every like some odd years.
They have to grant it to
and
you.
every time he goes, he's like, "Well, this is what I think I'm doing." And it's like all crazy,
like nut bar. Obviously, I mean he is no Morgan Freeman. I will tell you that. Like, I mean, it was just nuts. I mean, it was just him like railing in a chair about like all this random shit, and they'd be like, "Okay,
swastikas on his face."
Oh my God,
it's crazy.
That was I just remember that as a kid being like, "What is happening?"
Yeah, crazy. Good story though. So I just want to point out, quick side plot. There's this part where there's this new work coming. Speaking of jobs at the prison, where they're like, "We need to tar the roof. Who wants to do it?" And everybody wants to do it because it's outside labor. Even though I'm watching them tar this roof and with these giant mops, and I'm like, that looks terrible. Like those mops are getting no traction. Yes. I don't think I would never. It just looked like a fruitless endeavor. Like it was just. Like, was it ever going to be tarred?
That is like the least amount of something I would want to mop. Honestly, that seems like a horrible metaphor. You're like, it's like mopping up tar. Oh wait, we're doing that.
So miserable.
It was awful.
I hated it.
I just feel like there's a better way to apply tar. Just saying. Maybe I don't think it's with a mop.
Maybe not in the 40s. But yeah, so there's that scene always stuck out to me. So when I was little, the big heavy hitter things for me were Brooks' suicide. Like Brooks' death, like always hit me very hard as a child because I just found him to be so sweet. He has like this pet bird.
Like this is where your old man crush.
Oh
like,
my
developed.
God, you're right. I just love sweet little old men who
too.
aren't rapers. But Brooks is so sweet, and he's just been there forever. He's got a bird, and the bird's name is I can't remember.
Jake.
Nicholas? Oh.
It's like a random.
Right. I love it because it's just like a person's name.
Yeah, I love pet names that are people. It's so good.
And it's so sad when he has to he leaves he leaves the prison and he has to let Jake go, just like Julie-san had to let Angel go in the next Karate Kid. It's emotional. And he just can't make it out there, and it's just so sad.
But like, can you imagine that? So he was in there longer than anybody else, 50 years. So he was probably in his like late 70s. So he was like a teenager, 18, let's say. Maybe 20, in his 20s when he went to prison. So he spent 50 years there. And so you're talking about spending from the years 1905 to the 1960s in prison. Mm-hmm. So you know how much change has gone on between the 1900 turn of the century and the 60s? Like, holy shit. So that guy gets out and he's like, well, I saw like a car once, like before he went in there. It was like a Model T probably. And then all of a sudden, like shit's like just like streaming past him like, like, out of the way, old man. Like, oh my God, of course he can't hack it. And then they have him bagging groceries, which like, I'm sorry. And he has arthritis, okay? And I'm sorry, have you ever tried to bag your own groceries? That is a hard job. Like it's a strategy. It's like a game of Tetris. And you have to figure out like where shit goes. That is not a job for a 70-year-old.
Okay, point A, that's really like the only thing that he'd be able to do because he doesn't know anything about the technology. Like he wouldn't know how to use that cash register. He wouldn't know how to count money probably. Like, you know, that's probably like the only thing they can put him on. Point B, yes, I agree with you about bagging groceries. And I started doing this thing at Stop and Shop. I used to despise human contact. And I'd be like, only self-checkout. But ever since Stop and Shop, like, redballed me or, like, blacklisted me because I stole things on the Scan It gun. I mean, I haven't been able to use the Scan It gun. So when I get a lot of groceries, I go to a real person line, and I always make sure to pick the line where there's a bagger because I don't want to be like, oh, I'll help you bag some stuff because I'm not going to do it. I don't know how to do it. I don't know where to put the thing in the what. I don't know.
There's a science behind it.
So I do it that way now, and it's so much more relaxing.
Oh yeah, it's awesome. It's like, wow, like you stand there and you just run your card through, and you're like, wow, this is all I had to do today. This is great. Yeah, I agree. But like, what job would he have done?
Right.
True.
Maybe
Couldn't
mopping.
they give him
No,
like
he's too old for
some
that
sort of
too.
like old person like pension, post prison pension? I don't know.
Maybe they didn't have that then.
I mean, he worked at the library all the time.
he could
like,
sit in a bathroom and like be one of those bathroom people that like in fancy places where there's just like a guy in there, attendant.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, that's just like really hard. And obviously, if you don't have any family left and you never got, I mean, he was young, so he probably like never got married. His parents are dead. His siblings are probably dead. I mean, man, that's depressing.
I was just thinking, to lighten the mood, I was just thinking of the attendant in Austin Powers where he's like, you didn't see anybody come in here, did you? And there's like a blind attendant guy. And you're like, okay. He's like, sorry. Like, what? Why is he there?
We gotta do
This
that
is so
movie.
great.
So good.
Yes. Okay. So Brooks, definitely the saddest part.
Yeah.
Second thing that sticks out to me is Andy's escape. So even though I didn't truly identify my vomit phobia until later in life, this was definitely a movie that like scarred me in some way because I found that scene to be very disgusting and like scary. And he throws up and it's like, ew. He throws up into like a pipe of shit, so you're like, ew, ew. But I just hated that part.
You would throw up,
I
too.
hated that part when I was little because I would immediately put myself in that situation and be like, oh my God. Can you imagine having to crawl through 5 football fields of shit in a tiny claustrophobia? It's
I'd
the
be more about the
claustrophobia. Yeah.
claustrophobia.
The claustrophobia really freaks me out in this.
Because
These-
claustrophobia in itself is pretty bad, but maybe if you combine that with a horrible smell, that's like obviously like 20 times as bad. Like horrible smell in a tiny space. Whoa.
I can't. It's,
Yeah, but again, it just goes to the fact, like, what will you do to, like, get out of that situation? And he was just like, get me out of here. Like, I will crawl through football
That's
fields
true.
of shit.
I'm trying to think of my like most desperate
I
situations.
mean, I would do it.
Remember that time after the 4th of July, you walked home like 8 miles in those shoes that like your feet were bloody?
Where was I walking home from?
Like Charles.
oh my God, yes.
That
Yes.
comes to mind.
Oh, that's like my normal, like, craziness, though. I'm like a nut job when it comes to walking. I'm like, I'm only walked 10 miles today, though, Biggie. You guys, I'm getting 20,000 steps on the reg on
Holy
my
shit.
Fitbit.
Did you beat
What is
Peter?
up? Fuck yeah, Pete.
Hey, Pete.
I know you're a mailman and you were like my goal, but I'm on you,
Beat
buddy.
your ass.
But yeah.
What part sticks out to you?
I mean, definitely the Brooks stuff is like completely sad and awful, and I agree.
I just
like,
wrote a sad face.
oh my God, sad old men just
I know.
with like no hope is probably just the worst thing I can think of. And there's a lot of them. There's a lot of them out there. Interesting that they use that sort of plot about people being what they call institutionalized.
Nice.
So they're just so used to prison that like they can't imagine life outside of it, and they don't really want the freedom because their like whole life is inside. I remember that's kind of the big storyline in Orange is the New Black, because Tasty keeps like basically committing crimes to get back in because she like can't function outside.
Just one time. Yeah.
Yeah. I stopped watching that
Well,
show.
like I said, Orange is the New Black is like such a summer camp. It's like, why
Yeah.
would you leave all your friends
Exactly.
and stuff to like go to like a shitty? I
Yeah.
mean, like when you're
And
released
to-
from prison, it's not like they're like, here's $500.
Yeah.
Like you get something, maybe like bus fare or something, but it sucks. And then you're blackballed because you can't get a job because you're an ex-convict, and it's just like a terrible system. So I totally get it. Totally
Yeah.
get it.
But I mean, again, like, if you can't do the time, don't do the crime. But what does that say when people were like innocent? And Brooks must have been murder though, huh?
I assume. I'd like to know what everyone did. I mean, I don't know.
I mean,
If he was in there for that long,
Yeah.
it sounded like a life term. So
it's like a real conundrum because, like, yes, like are you not allowed to make like mistakes in your life? And I think people can be like rehabilitated in a sense. Like I think you can, especially like the Morgan Freeman character. And obviously like that's what they're trying to judge when you are in prison and you're been there long enough and you're like, are you a danger to society anymore? And I think there are going to be people who are like repeat offenders and obviously have, in that case, probably more mental problems than anything else. But I think there are people who just like got in a weird bind and, or just were really in a bad place and killed somebody. Does that mean their whole life like goes away? And like, granted, like I've never lost somebody to being murdered or killed. So I'm sure I would think differently if like you got murdered and I'd be like, no way is that guy getting out.
Hey.
Ever.
I don't want to get murdered.
Yeah. But it's just that whole prison system is interesting and also like how you don't perpetuate that kind of stuff either. So it's like they're not able to come out of that experience and like can't get jobs and can't do anything, then well, of course they're going to repeat offenses and be, you know, in this vulnerable state again. And like,
Right.
So it's like, how does that cycle not keep perpetuating itself?
I'll tell you
And
how.
then-
By education
Right.
and doing what Andy was doing in that library, just like helping people
Right.
get ahead.
Right.
So, I mean, that's the key. And I think the prison system is flawed and we need to fix it. But I think
Yeah.
it starts, as with most things start with, is better education.
Yes, exactly. So it's like, I think you can increase the people who go to prison by like a foundation of education and learning. And obviously, like, you know, I mean, it's just so much like involved with that. If you're talking about race stuff and the packing of, you know, black incarceration and stuff like that. I mean, there's just so many
Yeah.
layers to that. It just like sucks no matter like what you way you look at it. But it's just interesting that like that's like, you know, as a society, like we have to do that. Like we have to have some sort of punishment mechanism that is like, okay, if you do X, like this is what you face,
Yeah.
you know, or else you know, like civilized societies have to have something like that. And back in the day, like that was probably way more worse because you'd be like, okay, you killed somebody, like now we kill you.
In
So-
the stocks.
Yeah. So, I mean, and torture and stuff like that. So obviously now it's a little bit more humane, but is it?
No, there's just that case where they just said that the guy who had the lethal injection, something went wrong and he like,
Oh, or just prison in general
Oh.
versus like if you're just going to be like killing
Oh.
people, is it worse to just be like, because don't they always say like, wow, the death penalty is like a way out. Prison is way worse because you have to like
Well, I
stew
mean-
in there
that's
and like
what I
think about
said.
your crimes.
yeah, I don't know. It's a tricky subject. Okay, so back on to funny stuff. New favorite insult is fuck stick. Good one.
That guy has some good ones.
Yeah, that
He
jerky
really
guard
does.
had a lot of. I should have started writing them down in the beginning, but I forgot, and I only wrote down fuck stick, which I don't regret because it's great. I'm going to use it all the time now. So
Random like trivia of
Oh.
like who should have played who or whatever.
Oh yeah.
It was like
that.
always so interesting to me because it's like just that like alternate reality kind of thing. Like, what if this movie was made with like X and X?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
would this have been as good? Doubtful, because listen to this. So Rob Reiner originally, like, okay, so the guy wrote the screenplay after the Stephen King novella, right? And I guess Stephen King had this thing where he would sell aspiring screenplay writers, or filmmakers, his screenplay or his story. So one of his short stories to make into a movie for $1. That was like a thing he had going.
Why?
I don't know. It's just like a commitment he had to, I think, like young aspiring talent. You know, not wanting to have like hold a monopoly. He knew he was really famous, but he wanted to give those guys a break.
Oh,
So
right.
he'd be like,
So you, like,
"Here's one of my short stories.
I already have
make
money,
a movie out
so
of it."
yeah. Oh, that's nice.
So anyway, so this guy like wrote the screenplay, and him and Steven were like pretty close. But then I think he didn't want to direct it or something. I don't know. At first,
Steven wanted to direct
No,
it?
no, no, no.
Oh, Frank didn't want to.
Yeah, something like that. So then like Rob Reiner was like, oh, like I think I want to direct it or something like that, and he was going to cast Harrison Ford and Tom Cruise.
Who Tom Cruise was supposed to be? Tim Robbins.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Isn't that
Stupid.
so weird?
Pretty dumb.
Yeah, so that was the first one. And then, really, initially, Tom Hanks was supposed to be doing the Tim Robbins role. But then Forrest Gump came up, so he picked that instead. And
Got the
obviously
Oscar.
worked out for him. But then he was still able to basically do a very similar role in The Green Mile.
Yeah.
Well, he was a prison guard, but, you know, so another Stephen King story, also in a prison. About an innocent man.
Good
so.
to know. Good to know.
Yeah.
So for our senior year yearbook, you get like a whole, on your senior, you get to get like a professional picture taken, and you get like a third of the page dedicated to you, and you get to put all your clubs that you're in, and you get to say hi to your friends, and you get to include a quote. And this can be something you said, which only the dumb kids put in. I don't know. Why would you do that? Like, hey, remember that time in class? Haha, me. No one did that. But everyone did like a movie quote or a song quote. So I did a quote from the Shawshank Redemption, and it's not the one you think it is. It's not "Get busy living" or "Get busy dying," because everyone does that one. Someone did actually in my class, and I was like, "You're a loser." Just kidding. No, I picked.
Way
I
harsh,
decided to pick. I guess some birds just aren't meant to be caged. their feathers are just too bright. I was trying to be cool, and I think it mostly worked. And I think I put like the quote as it from Red. I didn't want to put Shawshank Redemption because I didn't want people to think I was like
So
in
you
prison.
just put Red?
Yeah,
Weird.
because
People
said
were
it.
like, "Who the fuck is that?"
Well, he said it. If you know, then you know.
Oh, stop! That's not why you do quotes, so two people know.
So, but then I felt regret because I really wanted to pick the quote from Adventures in Babysitting. Nobody leaves this place without singing
That
the
would've
blues
been
because it's so relevant. But the reason why I didn't want to pick that is because I thought people would make fun of me for quoting a movie about babysitting.
What?
Because I didn't think they would know what it was. Like, I don't think most people had
are
seen
you?
that movie. So that's why I didn't do that. But it's one of my biggest regrets in life. That and not buying that Wedge action figure from that we saw in
the
KB
DeLorean
Toys.
and could go back for you and create some alternate 2018s. Where would your life be if you had put that quote and if you had bought that Wedge action figure? You could have been a totally different person.
People would stop me on the street and be like, "Oh my God, Andre Dumas, you had the best yearbook quote I've
What if
ever
you're like
seen."
living in a mansion now because of those decisions?
I bet I would be. It makes sense. It's just like my life would be more on track, I think. I don't know. All right, let's talk about Stephen King.
Okay. So as discussed, this is a Stephen King novella called Rita Hayworth and the Shawshank Redemption. So they cut off that Rita Hayworth part of the title, basically because the director decided it was too confusing because people thought this was a biography about Rita Hayworth.
I mean, that is super confusing, but also I want to say that he has other posters besides Rita, so it's a little unfair to Marilyn and
Raquel Welch.
that they're not in the title also, but whatever.
Yeah. So it's I actually got the collection that it's in. It's called Different Seasons is the collection. And actually, so it goes like spring, summer, fall, winter, and each one is like a novella. So this is the first one. The second one is Apt Pupil, also made into a movie. The third one is
Not Apartment Pupil,
No,
like
not
I
Apartment
thought, so don't get confused.
The third one is The Body, which ended up being Stand By Me, the movie Stand By Me. And then I forgot what the fourth one was, but the only one that has been made into a film. So clearly, everyone knows, like, Stephen King has written, like, a bajillion fucking books. I've read a good quarter of them, and I'm, like, and that's a lot of books. So I'm not even, like, made a dent into the Stephen King collection. He's, like, so prolific. The guy publishes, like, a book a year, maybe even two. I mean, he's kind of nutty. But he's awesome. There's a great Fresh Air interview with him and Terry Gross a couple years ago. I forgot, like, what book he was releasing. But he was, like, this very, like, existential conversation he had with her. It was so good. I just love Stephen King. He's so cool. So anyway, so this is... and I haven't finished the actual novella yet. I started it today, and it's interesting. It's pretty close to this. The guy took a lot of lines and stuff, kind of word for word, which is kind of amazing when they do that, when you have like great source material and you can just kind of expand on it. But interesting that they had the red character is actually an Irish white guy, and he had red hair. That's why it's called Red. Yeah. And then they have him a totally different crime. Why he's in there? He like has cut his wife's brakes on her car because he had like a life insurance policy out on her, so he like wanted money. So that's like kind of a bummer. But I can't wait to finish reading that. But Stephen King is just like so also prolific, not only writer, but obviously his books being turned into movies, right? So I think people, and I just want to say this about Stephen King, that he's so known for his like horror movie stuff, and I really don't think once you start reading a lot of his stuff that is like necessarily like what that guy is about. Really, he does like the horror of human like existence and like action, I would say. And I think this is a great really illustration of that, because you're talking about like the prison and what happens in there, what put people in there, and like what happens to those guys when they're in there. And almost like that's the real horror story. Like you don't even need to think up these like crazy like psycho alien weird like zombies or whatever. It's like just the regular shit that human beings do to each other is like the horror itself. So I always think that about Stephen King movies or books, and really his good ones are basically that. There is a Pet Cemetery and there's Salem's Lot where you have vampires. So it's not that he like doesn't do that, but I would say like the breadth of his work is more just like examining like basically like what drives humans to do like really horrible things.
Interesting.
Yeah. But yeah, I would recommend like obviously any of his books. My favorite is The Shining.
Yes,
it is
it is
excellent,
your favorite.
and hated the movie. So I know that's a very unpopular opinion because people love that Shining, the Kubrick Shining, but the book is amazing. Yeah, I also love 11/22/63. Excellent.
Excellent.
Yep, The Stand, so good. Challenging, really, really long. And again, really not like as much about a killer clown as like everyone has thought to believe.
Well, that's just one form that Pennywise takes.
Right.
It's not like.
But it's really, he doesn't appear as a clown that much. Again, that is about like an evil town
Right,
and like
but
all the
because
evilness
movie,
of the town.
It's like with The Shining, like you can't. They're different mediums, so like you can't show a lot of what Pennywise, other things that Pennywise embodied, because the clown is the most visceral and the thing that people respond to the most. So
but
you
I will
make that
say,
artistic decision.
The new movie does like a great job of like working with that, and it doesn't make it just like, oh, it's a scary clown, because he does like morphs into different things. But that movie or that book is so interesting. I just like get sad when like the source material gets basically turned into these movies that basically change everyone's thoughts about what the actual source material is, and people don't go back to it and aren't like realizing like what good, like how great that stuff is, you know?
Yeah.
I just hate that about books to movies. And his have been very successful, and some of them very good. So
But then
I
you
will
have to
say
look at
that.
the other side of it, where the ones like the movies that are better than the books, like Psycho is way better than that book was. And most of Alfred Hitchcock's, he did a lot of book to movie adaptions, and most of his movies were better.
Rarely happens though. Like that is a very rare thing.
I think it happens more than you think, because you don't realize that things were books. Like I didn't realize that Psycho was a book, that like Strangers on a Train was a book, that Rebecca was a book, Jamaica Inn was a book. You know, like it's
Those
like,
are great books.
Oh, I know. Those are probably exceptions, but I feel like everything's a book. Like I'm always like, oh, that's based on a book. Okay. Oh, okay.
I know, and I know, and I just get really mad. Especially get mad when then they like take the people in the movie and make covers and put that as the book cover.
I know, but it's just
I hate that.
it's an easy way to get sales, because people, I see the movie and they're like, oh, I'll read the book.
Right, and it benefits the author. So I guess like I'm just coming from a like writer, that kind of perspective. Not that I'm like a writer, but obviously a huge reader, and I just like, you know, writers don't get their dues. Stephen King has gotten his dues. Okay, that guy,
You're
is
fine, buddy.
fucking rolling in it, and still
You're
lives like a
fine.
really like. If you should follow him on Twitter, he does like some funny little posts. He's pretty political, and he like loves tweeting at Trump. I'd recommend following him on Twitter. Hey, Steven. And his sons write too. So he's two sons, Owen King, and who's the Nosferatu guy? Shoot,
Joe Hill.
yeah, Joe Hill. So he took his like mom's maiden name. So they're both writers, his sons, and they write like exactly like him, which is nuts. And I just read this book called Sleeping Beauty, where him and his son Owen wrote together. Whoa, so crazy. But yeah, anyway, my friend was like at a book reading for one of the sons, and Stephen King like strolled in.
Like in the audience?
Yeah.
Or was everybody freaking out, or did
He
nobody
was
bring
just
attention
so,
to
like,
it?
no one was really paying attention.
Was he
to
wearing
it.
a baseball cap?
Probably.
Okay.
And like that's what the thing with writers is so cool. Like you could be so famous, but you basically live like a normal life.
That's what I always was like. I think I want that to be my
Yes.
track, my
Wouldn't that
my
be
celebrity
amazing?
track.
You're just like a normal person, and someone might like, you know, I saw Zadie Smith on Friday. I went to her like book reading, and she's like an international, like global sensation. But I would never pass that woman on the street and be
I
like,
don't
"You're
even know
Zadie Smith."
I don't even know what she looks like.
She's
Like,
beautiful,
I can't.
and she complimented my coat.
What?
Okay, so I went with my friend Erin,
You
and
never even
she's
told me
like,
about this.
Erin is, so you got a free book. And I am definitely not one of those people who gets a book signed. Like, I just don't feel like I need it. Erin is just someone who likes to get books signed. And she's one of those people. I love her for it. But I'm just like, I'll stand in the line with you. And I have my book. And I'm like, well, I can't just be like, sorry, Zadie. No, like, don't sign my book. Like, I'm in the line.
Yeah.
So the woman comes up to me and she's like, what's your name? I'm going to put on this Post-it. So, like, Zadie knows, like, what your name is to personalize it. And I was like, Emily? Because I was like, should I do this? Because it was, like, against everything I believed in. But I stood up there and we waited for, like, 20 minutes in line. And we were
that's
just,
not
like,
long.
chatting and shit. We were in like the front of the line too.
Yeah.
So poor Zadie looks so tired, but she like does this beautiful signature. She's like, oh my god, that color green is so. So all during the book thing, she'd love to say extraordinary. It's like my new favorite thing, extraordinary in a British accent. that color green is extraordinary. So awesome.
my
So I was like, oh my God. So then I got out and I was like, Zadie Smith thinks my coat is extraordinary.
Awesome.
Yeah. So cool. But yeah, read some Stephen King, guys. Recommended.
Rate it up. Okay. Anything else?
No, I mean, this is a great movie. I'm bummed it didn't win any Oscars, but who fucking cares? Because Oscars are dumb.
Yeah.
What do you think is going to win the Oscars? What are your predictions for the top 4 awards? 5 awards.
Oh, what? Okay, calm down. I don't even remember now. Best Picture probably will be. Wait, what won the
3
Golden
Billboards.
Globes? Oh, I don't want it to be that because I think it's so like expected. I mean,
I think
I
it'll
would
be 3
want
Billboards
it.
or Shape of Water.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I don't think Shape of Water would be in it. I want it to be Get Out, obviously. I think that would be amazing. Or Lady Bird.
Oh, maybe it'll be I forgot Lady Bird. Maybe it'll be Lady Bird.
Has a chance. Best actor. Again, I don't remember anything. But
Yeah, I don't either. Damn.
whatever. I'm not making predictions. Fuck it. Fuck it all. Time is up. In the podcast and for men.
I was going to say, I was like,
No.
okay, but time is up. But everyone, I hope you watch the Oscars. Hope
Yay.
you dress in a ball gown and eat some hors d'oeuvres and credities.
Credities.
And it is fun to like watch that show,
I know.
but just know that awards mean nothing. They're bullshit.
Can we stream
just
it
watch
again?
Disney's. Yeah.
Oh, what channel is it on?
Well, I now have an antenna, so I can watch it live. But it'll be on. What is it on usually?
CBS. I'll look it up.
Yeah.
Oh no, they're the dickheads that like don't let you stream unless you have the.
I used to have all access, but I
know,
canceled.
I canceled mine too.
Sorry.
Fuckers. Maybe I'll sign up for it again under a fake email. I have like 10 emails just that I
You're
use
totally
for free
going
trials.
to Shawshank.
No!
You're such a scam.
Oh, what are you in here for, sweetie? I made 10 fake emails so I could get Hulu free trials every month.
It's such a loophole. I love it.
I know.
I have a couple too.
Leave
Not
it.
guilty. Guilty as charged.
Anyways, cool. So thanks, guys. Thanks for listening. Please find us on Twitter at the Sweety Club or on Instagram at Large Marge Sent Us. Buy some studio headphones. Use the discount code Large Marge. Get 15% off. And have a great time in life. And don't go to prison.
Don't go to prison.
Bye.
Bye.